Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to address you some areas of e-government, identity and encryption, which will be even more important than it is now with the concentration of areas like operating system in the West, hardware building in Asia, and where's Europe? Is it about security? Is it about privacy? Hopefully it is about these things, because we have to think that the challenges are changing. Your smartphone, every time is connected to an open internet connection to one of the three big vendors, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and you're sort of on a leash. We have been addressing roaming today. When you reconfigure your system in roaming, that is a big security issue. And encryption is not up to the requirements. And that will increase when you think about online cooperation and collaboration in cloud. As you type on Office 365, what have you, all data are somewhere. What does that mean in the light of not having safe harbor anymore? What does that mean with sensitive data? We have to cope with this. And we have to think that spending on cybersecurity is directly related to economic welfare, to economic growth. There's many studies on that. But how do we reinforce trust? You certainly know about this case, the Dublin case of Microsoft, where they have been challenged to deliver data of European databases according to US law. And that is a big issue for all European, as the cloud as such is an issue in terms of security. Cloud does so far not respect what we have as needs from the legal side in Europe. With the IDAS regulation, it's the national duty to be the governance body for EID and for security. Mechanisms with major public clouds are not ready for European administrations. And we see that. European administrations are hesitating. Security concerns are slowing down the take-up, especially, as you see on the first line, with public administrations. Identity is the core of security. It needs to be appropriate. It needs to be multi-factor. It needs to be crypto-based. That's all very high demands. But at the end, it needs to be acceptable. It needs to be simple, very simple for the user. And that is the key challenge, the broad acceptance. EID must serve the user's need. We have increasingly many tablets and mobile phones where you cannot, plug in a card reader, what have you. So that results in different paradigms. Let me just 2 minutes use for the Austrian approach. We have this citizen card since 2001, and it's in the law since 2004. It's about EID and e-signature, and it will be is our solution for IDAS as well. And it's very simple. You just use your mobile phone. You use your PC or your tablet, what have you. You type in your mobile phone number and a password, and after that, the security is, and that is fixed in the IDAS regulation as well, is in a remote secure element so that every phone works with that. The second factor is by sending a TAN, and as you type in this, everything is done. And we are moving forward. You have certainly seen the security challenges with SMSs. So we are moving forward. The next step will be using QR codes and making that even simpler. It is about privacy, so we are not using flat identifiers. We're rather using sector-based identification, which means that if you have more applications in various sectors, it's impossible to match the identifier from one area to a second area, which is to our perception of data protection very important. We have a cancer register, for example, and it should not be the case that the cancer register can in any way be related to databases which are job relevant, which are relevant to assurance, et cetera, et cetera. Stork, it has been mentioned in the previous talk, has been an important large-scale pilot because it served as a model for EIDAS. I'm happy that Stork started somehow during the Austrian presidency 2006. I still remember the negotiations with the Commission. And it's considering all these things I've mentioned, like minimum security, like mutual recognition, rather than single technology. We are not in a situation that we can implement a single technology throughout Europe, but we can implement interoperability. The question is, how do we reach a comprehensive security? The big problem is when you switch from one service to another, we will not be able to change this, so we have to cope with this. But we can't change the lack of technical security in ID. We cannot do much about awareness. We have tried that over the last 15, 20 years, and the best what we can reach is that it's not coming worse. But we will not make a relief in terms of security. Where we can do something is about liability and contracts. It's not the user who defines what type of mechanisms he is using or she is using. It's rather the service. So that also the liability should at least be split among these two, and we're not there in many situations. And cloud needs to respect these needs. Cloud is a hype, but legally it's the same thing as everything else. It has to respect the same things. And especially in cloud, it is about that user and services need to know which jurisdictions their communications went through and their partners are in. Users and services must have the sole control about data, which is not always the case, and the Dublin case is just one of the examples. I will not go into detail, but we still have a big problem when it comes to lawful interception, when lawful access and cloud, especially in government data, because we have no understanding what it means if a cloud service in Denmark is hosting data from Slovakia, and for some reason, for other services, the Danish agencies need to access this cloud service, and certainly would then, as a side effect, have access to the Slovakian data. So we need to somehow solve this. Liability and jurisdiction means that the user needs information, choice, and control about the situation where data come from and where data are communicated through. It needs to be transparent about, because otherwise it's very complicated. For example, if I call you and we are both in Slovakia, it might well be that the call is switched somewhere in some country. The technology with mobile devices is complicated, so the sole solution will be to separate security services from cloud, at least for the 2 to 5% sensible data, and to have security under the control of the user. And unfortunately, the least secure, like we see on the mobile devices, the least secure, in many cases have the best chances in terms of market. Now, the challenges are to secure this parameter of security and to match this with the cloud devices. We will need crypto for that on a user national base control, but it's not the sole solution because it still needs further thinking. I will skip this. I already said that we need to separate trust service from cloud. so as to keep the user under control, especially because we have a different situation. In the cloud service, the provisioning of data is an attack potential by itself. And that is not considered in many ways. Now, for the last minute, I will focus on one thing which will be one of our great challenges of the future, which is document collaboration. As we type with Office 365, with Google Docs, et cetera, all our things are in the air. And we have to think about login, about code continuity, about standards, about data protection. And most probably the only way is to have a key per document. And we have to go even one step further, which means that we might have to need a key per document use, because the groups are dynamic and we need to have things under control. So I initially thought I would have 15 minutes, and now it's 10 minutes, but I think I cope with that. Thank you.